How's it, ladies and gentlemen? On this Monday, January 13th, we have a Cancer full moon at 23, almost 24 degrees coming up today. And if this moon is about, releasing anything emotional, this is something that I've had to get off of my chest for a really long period of time now. So, once again, we need to understand that this does not apply to every single physical therapy clinic out there, but it's going to be a majority of them. It's going to be a large majority of them, okay? In fact, to find a physical therapy clinic that's probably doing the right thing and doing right by their clients and their patients, it's going to be pretty few and far between. It's going to be a diamond in the rough, okay? And it was one of the main reasons why I couldn't get out of that business fast enough. But anyways, here's my story. So I graduate with a master's in kinesiology, right, from the University of Hawaii. And I was working with Travis LeBoy. He ended up getting drafted by the Tennessee Titans, I believe, third round. And he came back after his first year, and he was getting married to his longtime girlfriend, Nohea, and he invited me to the wedding. So I'm at the wedding, and I am just about to graduate with my master's. I'm like a month away from being done with my thesis and everything like that. And I'm at the wedding, and here comes this guy walking up to me, and he's like, "Hey, you're Travis's trainer, you work with him?" I'm like, "Yeah, we do some things together." And he's like, "Perfect." He's like, "I have a job for you. When do you graduate?" And I said, in like a month and a half. And he's like, "Okay, well, I'll give you my card. I want you to call me and we'll set something up. We'll talk. And I want you to come work for me." So I end up finding out that this is a physical therapy clinic. Now, I got my master's in kinesiology, but I was like, okay, I can do physical therapy. And really what he wanted me to do was train a lot of the high school athletes. And he also knew that I had a lot of ties with guys like Devon Bess, Ryan Grice Mullen, Colt Brennan, things like that, guys like that. So I think that he wanted me to come in and kind of be the performance side, but also with my ties to, college sports on the island of Hawaii, or on the island of Oahu. It's really the only show in town, right? So I ended up coming into his business, and, Devon came in shortly thereafter, and so did Ryan. And Devon never really had any problems. He didn't get injured very much. Ryan ended up having a hamstring issue, and the owner of the place was giving him a lot of real, what I call gimmicky exercises, talking about, oh, it's your transverse abdominis, that's why it's super weak, and you keep on getting injured, and your hamstrings keep pulling, and blah, blah, blah. And this kid was in the clinic, I think 2 or 3 times a week, doing the corniest of exercises because the owner said so. The owner said, this is what your problem is. And he felt good for a little bit, but, spring ball starts up, and what ends up happening, he gets injured again. Same hamstring. So Ryan knew me, and he comes over, and I'm doing a little bit of his rehab stuff and whatnot. And I told him, I said, "You know what, bro, let me just check that hamstring out. Let me get in there." And I get him on the ground. This is very crude. I mean, he's on the ground right next to one of the platforms. And I start working on his hamstring. I find this big old knot. I dig my elbow into it. I feel it fizzle out and kind of pop. And he's screaming the entire time. And he gets up and he's walking around. He's like, "Man, my hamstring's sore, but it feels a lot better." He ended up going back to practice a couple days later and never had to come back for another hamstring problem. So I was like, cool, I did a really good job with that. He had a lot of other high school kids that were coming in after their rehab was up from whatever they got injured from, One of them in particularly had an unhappy triad, a lot of big problems going on in this kid's leg and knee, and he was there for close to 18 months. He was, I would probably say, just rehabbed into oblivion. He comes up to me one day telling me, hey man, I'm having trouble going upstairs. My leg is so tight, but I keep coming in here doing the same exercises over and over and over and over. And his parents are paying for this stuff, right? So what gives? He's going out on the field. He can't run. And he had a big time scholarship to a big time school. So for a big kid from a small town, this is pretty important, right? So he comes to me and I start doing a lot of stretching, loosening that leg up, getting those muscle fibers conditioned and working properly. And lo and behold, he gets a lot better and he can go off and actually play really, really well. And his parents ended up giving the owner of the place, homeboy's got a problem back there. I wonder what his problem is. Cancer full moon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why he's throwing that stuff there, but all good. So there you go. Little bit of exactly what I'm talking about. Deep emotions today, ladies and gentlemen. Deep emotions we're talking about. So the parents went and gave the owner hell. And they were like, hey man, you had our kid here for 18 months and Chris fixed him in 3 weeks. What are you doing? He didn't like that very much. So it comes time for my 6-month review. And I'm berated. I'm talked down to by the owner. He tells me, you are here to preserve the status quo and you are to dangle the carrot. You are to give people just enough to where they feel like they're getting better, but not too much where you're pushing them out early. And if you can't do that, your services are no longer needed. So I looked at him and I said, do you want me to quit? Should I quit right now or do you want me to finish my shift? And he goes, that's okay. Your services are no longer needed. So I went and grabbed all of my stuff, picked it up, and I shook all of the physical therapist's hands, told them goodbye, and I left. Well, I get home and it was a couple of hours and I'm like, man, I wonder what I'm going to do next. Right. And I realized, holy cow, I left all of my food back at work. So it's about 6:30. I go back into the clinic. And as I walk in, I see the owner and I say, I forgot my food. I'm just here to get my food. I'm not trying to cause any trouble, any problems. I go into the break room. I get the food out of the refrigerator. And when I turn around, he's standing in the middle of the doorway. And I'm like, if looks could kill, I'd be dead 10 times over, 20 times on Sunday. So I'm like, what's up, man? And what he wanted was he wanted all of my composition notebooks that I was writing programs in. And he asked me how much I wanted for them. And he said that he would have cut me a check right now. So I told him that those composition notebooks were worth 99 cents a piece, but the information contained therein was far more valuable. It was all my knowledge up until that point, which, let's be realistic, it was maybe like 6 years of strength and conditioning work, but I did a lot of reading, I did a lot of researching, and I knew what worked, and I got phenomenal results. I'm talking about, I had girls on the softball team in Hawaii. They were 150 pounds squatting 331 pounds legit. I'm talking about the head strength and conditioning coach was there. The football strength and conditioning coach was watching, making sure that their hips were below parallel, okay? This wasn't a thigh to parallel squat, all right? So I knew what worked, and he knew that I knew what worked. And he wanted to build up his performance side of the clinic, okay, while still maintaining the status quo and the carrot dangling of the physical therapy side, and he wanted that information. I told him it wasn't for sale. When I was kind of squeaking by him, he was trying to be a little bit intimidating. Walked right past him, and he was walking behind me telling me how I'll never work another day on this island, how he's gonna blacklist me and make sure that I never see the inside of another physical therapy clinic, and he's just gonna tell everybody about me and how bad I am and that I'm never gonna work again on the island of Oahu. And I'm like, gosh, man, you know, who am I? I just graduated from the University of Hawaii with my master's. Like, I don't know anybody, I don't know anything, man. I'm just trying to help people, right? So I leave and I think like, okay, that's it. 3 weeks later, cops come up knocking on my door. I'm like, what the hell? And they're like, hey, you know, we heard that you stole medical records. And I'm like, what do you mean I stole medical records? Like, what are you talking about? Well, you know, we know Pat Ariki and we know Sports Medicine Hawaii, and we were told that you stole medical records. And I'm like, no. That's not the truth at all. I did not steal any of those. They're composition notebooks. They were written in my own hand. Let me go get them for you. So I go and I get them and I show the cops, and it says power clean 3 sets of 5, back squat 5 sets of 3, bench press 3 sets of 8. Clearly not medical records, right? Clearly not medical records. So they have me fill out this affidavit. I go and retain a lawyer. He writes a nasty letter to the parties that are involved, and it goes before a judge and gets thrown out. And I mean, that was my introduction to the physical therapy space, okay? So I give you that example. Well, if they're treating their employees like that, what are they in treating the clients like? Okay, and I'm going to share a separate story in part 2 of this video, but I want to be very, very clear about the physical therapy space. And it's very much like I'm very clear about the medical space. They hardly know what they're doing. They are there to just restore movement, okay? Everything is overpriced. You may be only paying $20 for a copay, but your insurance company is getting charged probably 10 times that per visit, okay? And I want you to know that if you're not seeing the type of results you need at your physical therapist, to contact me, because I am a results-driven practitioner, okay? And the people that come to see me, they are in the worst of the worst shape. They've been to everybody and everyone, and nobody can help them, okay? And it's not the fact that I've been able to help every single person that comes to see me, but my hit rate is typically around 98 to 99%, okay? Chances are that if you've been to everybody and everyone and you don't see the positive benefits that you need, you're not getting better at the rate you need, it's because they're not treating the body the way that it's supposed to be treated, okay? So once again, this is just my story, okay? And what I've dealt with. I'm sure that there are thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, maybe even a million people out there that are going to resonate with this, and they're going to hear and be like, yeah, you know, I've been with so-and-so, or I've been being worked on by such and such, okay, and I'm not getting the results that I would like. The fact of the matter is, nobody is looking at the body the way that it needs to be, and a lot of these physical therapy clinics, they have thousands in overhead, maybe even close to 100,000 in overhead when you factor in all the equipment, all the employees, the rent that they're paying, the insurance that they need to carry. And the fact of the matter is, they need you coming back as often and as much as they can have you coming back, okay? This is not a let's fix you. They're dangling the carrot, okay? And I'll explain more about that in part 2.